Living life every day, late at night, not okay. Living life every day, late at
Kind of a bit weird. Not sure what happened there. Afternoon, folks. Welcome to the bit of a rejigged NFC West roundtable. We got Jason, we got Bo, and we got myself, Groovy. We're joining. We're having a sit-down chat. We're kind of catching up on a Sunday in a pre-game show. How are you guys doing?
Good.
I think everyone's jumping on. It's good to speak to you guys. I know apologies for the back and forth that we've been having. So, bit of a rough week. I know Sam's going to try and join us at on top of the hour to talk Rams, because the Rams seem to be the storyline of our division at the moment. I'm skimming over the bad news that's come out, obviously, against the Miami game for us. How are you guys doing? How you looking forward to your games this week?
For the Seahawks, it's really, they got to make sure not to let this become a trap game. At the end of the day, they have significantly more talent, or at least they're playing better than the Panthers, obviously. And so as long as they don't overlook this game, it should be a Seattle win. If they look beyond it, then, anybody, it's an NFL team, right? So anybody can come out and smack you if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, especially if they start looking ahead to Thursday night as well.
Exactly.
Jason, how are you looking today?
that facial expression right there.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
The Pats you can throw the ball against the Patriots. I mean, their secondary is kind of, where they can be exploited. That defense, don't get me wrong, that defense is great. It's a great defense, especially that front seven. We don't run the ball exceptionally well, but they can be thrown against, and especially that second corner. I know that Adam Thielen has kind of exploited them. Gabe Davis has exploited that second corner. And I think Hollywood Brown is a little bit, I would say, a class ahead of those guys. So we'll see. Coming in into the game on Monday, we got a way better offense, but they also got a way better defense. So we'll see. I think we should have beat the Chargers last week. As a matter of fact, I was coming down the escalator because we scored, so I wanted to beat the traffic. So I was coming down the escalator when the Chargers were making their march down their game-winning drive, and so I was hearing the Charger fans. I'm like, what are they yelling about? So I got to watch the game on the first level, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. So, but yeah,
it's interesting how you managed to contrive a loss from that position. It's
so frustrating. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we got a puncher's chance, but again, it's Bill Belichick, so we'll see.
Yeah, and is there a link between Bill and Cliff?
There is, yeah. Cliff played there. He was, I think, the third string quarterback for the Patriots a long time ago.
Just the reason I asked that is Belichick seems to have that.
I'm sorry, Belichick seems to have what?
He's got that sort of, he's got the handle on anyone who used to play for him or he part of his coaching tree or whatever else. He seems to, it doesn't matter who you were, he kind of knows how to beat them.
Yeah, if there's any kind of Patriots association, he just annihilates you, right? So yeah, there's always that. Cliff has immense respect for Belichick and adoration, the way he speaks about him. So, but we'll see. Again, this is not the Patriots team of the last, 2 or 3, or at least 2 decades. Again, they can be exploited. They are beatable. Damian Harris is out, so it's going to be the Ramondre Stevenson show. They don't have Jacoby Myers is their best wide receiver, and he's hit or miss. he's up. Some weeks he's down. Most weeks. So, which is good because we're out our number one corner, Byron Murphy. So again, I think it's going to be a good game. And we'll see. We'll see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I mean, I think for you guys, it's really going to come down to if you can, get some pressure on the quarterback. I mean, so if you can get Watt in the backfield, I mean, it's actually one of the reasons why I picked you guys to win. You definitely have the better offense. They have a better defense, but if you can get in the backfield and disrupt some timing, Jones isn't going to be the guy, right?
Yeah.
He's not the throw the team on the back and march down the field and make it happen. So if you can get in his head a little bit, I mean, it's a very winnable game for you guys.
Even push him off a spot, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have to get him on the ground. Just like Bo said, just hit him, hurry him, get him off a spot. And I think JJ can do that. Zach can do that. Majay Sanders, Cam Thomas. We have guys that can get you off your spot and create havoc in that backfield. So yeah, he's not a guy that can beat you, put a team on his back and carry him to victory. So yeah, we'll see, and hopefully we'll come out on top.
Yeah, as you say, get him hurried, get him off his comfort game. Their game is kind of reliant on that run game. If you can stuff it up front and force them to the air, then it's all go. It's anybody's game. Then I mean,
yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was going to kind of flip and sort of pivot a little bit to the game coming up in Santa Clara with the goat versus the baby goat, or however how many different sort of terminologies we're getting out of this. Mr. Irrelevant versus the goat and the best in the league and the best ever to do it. It's
and Belichick doesn't want that. Belichick doesn't want to put the game in Mac Jones' hands. He wants to get ahead quick. He wants to establish that run game. If he can give the ball to Ramondre Stevenson 25 to 30 times, that's the game that he wants. He wants to get ahead by 7 points real quick, so that way he can just hand the ball off and play defense. If we get up by 7 and Mac Jones has to throw, that is not the game script Belichick wants. So that's what we want, but so it'll be important. That first quarter is going to be vital to see, hey, how's the rest of this game going to play out?
For sure. Yeah. No, and like you were saying, just getting him off his spot. I mean, when you look at tape, even if he's just moving around, not necessarily, scrambling to do anything, just having to move in space, accuracy drops way off.
Yeah. They got a very good offensive line too, though.
They do. That's one thing the Pats always seem to have. I mean, the offensive line is always money. I mean, it's why Brady's been able to play for, a century.
Feels like it, yeah.
Give or take a year or two, yep.
Yeah, as you say, he's always had that clean pocket, or very little knockdowns, hurries, whatever else. He's been able to kind of sit and dictate from back there. Belichick knows games are won and lost on that front line and those trenches, and he's always made sure that his guys are really well coached. So it'll be interesting to see, as you say, Jay, if you can get up early and force Mac Jones to win that game. I think you're in for a great chance. But if they can get a score and a field goal up, and you're then chasing, that's when things get fun in games. But
just to keep things in perspective, and this last thing I got to say about the game, just to keep things into perspective about picking the Cardinals, Bo, that's what Colin Gallagher did too. He picked the Cardinals to win. We've won one home game in the last 14 months.
Yeah, what's with that? That home
if you know, tell me. If you know, tell me, because it's frustrating. Yeah.
I mean, man, yeah, that's probably the most frustrating for fans, because you're almost guaranteed to catch a loss if you go to the game. And it's rough. And some of them have been bad losses. So it's not even like you were like, oh, we were there the whole time, and, it was right there at the last play and whatever. Like, some of these were just bad from the jump. And man, those are tough to sit through. You do, because you bought tickets and it's your home team. But yeah, some of them are unfortunate.
Well, season ticket holders, that's that's the name of the game, right? I mean,
for sure.
You bought in at the beginning of the season, number one. Number two, the other games though have been we've been there. To me, that's the most frustrating thing. You take the Seahawks game. We were there the entire time. But I will say, for that game, I brought my son. He's 6. I'm telling you, man, that makes it a lot easier when you bring your kids, because normally I am frustrated as all get out. I've usually had a couple adult beverages. I'm mad. I'm ready to fight somebody.
You're all in on the game, right?
I am not happy. But when I bring my kids, I'm like, you know what? It's okay.
Well, that is the experience, right?
Because we have popcorn. I usually bought him a shirt or whatever. And on Monday night, I'm bringing my 8-year-old daughter. So I figured out that's the remedy.
That's the route to go to kind of make it an adventure, make it a kids' night out. Yeah.
Well, the problem is I only have 3 kids, so it's like I either have to have more kids or, you know what I mean. So
just do them in rotation. Do them in rotation. You'll be
right.
Fine. I think more kids is probably not the route to go there, Jason.
No, I can't afford it.
Swing them in rotation, you'll be fine. But hopefully your daughter enjoys Monday night then, because that sounds like a great daddy-daughter sort of experience to kind of take her to.
She likes to go because I buy her ice cream and all the food she wants, and she usually gets to go to the gift shop and pick out a shirt or a stuffed animal or whatever. So she loves it. Perfect. And then my wife yells at me when I get home.
Because you spoil them. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so at least hopefully they bring a win home with you, so you can take the shouting in the ear when you get home.
And then it's all worth it.
It's all fine. It's all good. Speaking of the all good, things are not looking all good up in San Francisco. We're down to QB3, pick 272.
I mean,
I totally disagree with all of you guys.
Purdy,
you know what? And I thought about this, and I'm like, why do I disagree because he played high school football in Arizona. He still has records in Arizona that might never be broken. So he was a household name in Arizona. And I know Arizona's not California, Texas, whatever for high school football, but he was an amazing high school quarterback. And you know what? I rewatched some plays, not the entire game, but some plays from last Sunday. He made some really good throws. He had a 67% completion percentage. Mm-hmm. I'm not comparing him to Jimmy GQ, but on the year, Jimmy GQ has a 67% completion percentage. So
yeah,
listen, I don't think I think you're going to be just fine.
So I think where it's going to be kind of fun to watch is, obviously a lot of times when a second, in this case, second string guy comes in, they usually have some success because nobody had tape on them. They weren't prepared for them. They generally have a different skill set. And this time, albeit not a ton of tape, but they at least know who's going to be under center. And so everybody, will have watched that a few times. And he was really calm back there throwing the ball. So, I mean, there was definitely some things that you look at and you're like, oh, okay, no, I mean, this guy can play football for sure. But coming into this week, they got a week of tape on him, and it'll be interesting to see if they can get in there and kind of disrupt some of that. I wouldn't say like great timing because he didn't do a ton of timing style routes, but just kind of disrupt his passing lanes.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely interesting. He's got those records in Arizona. He was a 4-year starter at Iowa State, so he's actually probably played more football than Trey Lance has. So from that side, he's got a little bit more experience. He's seen defenses, not top level. Obviously, Iowa State doesn't play at some of the top levels in the college, but he's got four years as a starter under his belt. There were a couple of times that I think it actually hurt the Dolphins because I think they went away from their defensive plan and kind of went, hey, third string guy, rookie, let's just blitz him, let's just bring pressure, which helped him to kind of just hand the ball off, dump it to CMC, play the safety valves. There were, as you say, there were a couple of throws under pressure, defensive ends right in his face that he got away to Kittle and to Debo, and he thread a couple of good balls. But I think it helps almost that Miami went off kilter and went off schedule. whether or not that happens this week, whether Tampa, as you say, they've got now 3 quarters or 3.5 quarters of tape on him, plus the Iowa State stuff. I'm sure that's all been dragged out of storage. It's all been lots of scouts looking at Iowa State football tapes now. Could be interesting, but also on the flip side, it now gives Brock an actual week of reps with the ones, which he hasn't had all this. Also, he's been playing scout, he's been playing the practice squad and whatever else. So that's also the flip side. The timing that was off, and some of those throws and some of the bits that they missed, maybe will be tightened up. Maybe it'll be even better on our side. So it's going to be a real, typically 49ers roller coaster ride. Just from the situation we were in, where we were last week, I think we were eyeing a Super Bowl run, and what seeding we're getting in the playoffs. I think we're still playoff bound. I think definitely after the win in Miami, it was a big step towards that playoff. Sure. And I think if we can get through these next 2 games, 1-1, I think that's us sort of rubber stamped. But it's going to be a fun ride with Brock. He's got the nicknames are coming out, everything's out there. It's got a feel good factor. It's almost a Disney movie written, but isn't it? Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft, takes over in his rookie year. Not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but I don't think it's being a bit tongue in cheek there, Jason. I think a lot of the 49er fan base aren't throwing the towel in and hands in the air. Well, in the UK, I'm not sure in California, and maybe it might be slightly different.
I mean, you shouldn't be throwing the towel in. I mean, if he's just a functional game manager that doesn't turn the ball over, you guys are going to win some games because that defense is elite and you have a ton of talent around him. So it's not like he has to come in and play hero ball. He just has to come in and not ruin the game.
Right.
As long as he plays decent, plus the expectation level is so low, being the last pick, that if he comes out and is bad, everybody's just gonna be like, oh yeah, I mean, last pick of the draft.
What do you expect, right? Yeah.
Right. But if he comes out and balls out, you'd be like, oh, he was picked in the wrong spot. So I think you guys are, you're obviously still going to the playoffs. I don't foresee that being an issue. What it'll probably end up being is it'll probably be a first round Hawks versus San Fran, because for whatever reason, that seems to be how it always works out.
Yeah. It's going to be, I think that'd be interesting. As you say, I think we are playoff rubber stamped. It's just Will not having that sort of experienced guy there when you get to playoffs, because one thing Jimmy has done, he's got us to the playoffs. He's gone deep in the playoffs. The experience that he has from that. Yes, he's going to be on the sideline. Yes, he's going to be there in Brock's ear. He's going to be there supporting, but is that going to be enough, or will it be will we temper it with, if we get to the playoffs and we get if we win a wild card game, is that then success? Considering the breaks, considering the backup QB, etc., etc. You got a feeling that either one of the Giants or the Commanders are in there as a spoiler wild card sort of thing, but that tie, isn't there? So they're going to come in and play spoiler in the playoffs, but it just depends. As it always does, as I mentioned to somebody else, the seeding in the NFC is going to be crucial to a decent playoff run, because anyone who can avoid Dallas early is probably going to be doing okay, because that Dallas defense is real. Yeah. No, I think you guys, with Jimmy going down, I think that really takes your Super Bowl hope out of the picture. But if I picture you guys as like a divisional exit at this point. I think the rookie could probably get a wild card win, depending on how that lines up, depending on who you play. But
so you're thinking he could beat the Seahawks?
I think that defense can, and that running game is where the real question is, right? Because that Seattle run defense can't stop anything. Teams are averaging almost 170 yards a game against the Hawks. Like, that is not a
wow.
That's not a long.
It's not a long-term goal,
defense, right? Like, you're going to meet up with a team that can run the ball and get smacked. The only time we played good defense against a run game was against Saquon. That was it. Like, we had a decent day. We didn't let the Giants just absolutely demolish us in the run game. But beyond that, like, we let Fournette go off for, over 150. We let Jacobs go for over 200 yards.
Josh Jacobs is the surprise of the century, I swear.
But then even last week, right? It was 150 yards rushing. So I mean, even teams that are
shouldn't be rushing on you,
falling apart, right? You got the Rams that are just imploding. They still tore off 150 yards against this Hawks defense.
Cam Akers, Kyron Williams. It would take the Cardinals 3 games to rush for 170 yards.
I mean, you guys actually did okay against us too, though, rushing.
But I'm wondering, you're saying you shut down Saquon. You wonder whether or not, because you look at that Giants team and it's Saquon or nothing, and whether or not that benefited you in the ability to go, hey, they're just going to run because who have they got at receiver?
I mean, they got to sell out every play for sure. I mean, if you look at a lot of that tape, we had 5 on the line almost all day. We had 2 outside linebackers and then our 3 up front. So I mean, they were there to stop the run, and then they were like, yeah, if you can complete a pass, our DBs will clean it up.
Yeah, if Golladay learns how to catch a ball or whatever,
That right there is why I think, and again, I'm obviously in the minority. I'm a minority, and I'm in the minority. That right there is why I think the Niners are going to go very, very far. The Niners defense does not need to do that. They can play their base defense. They don't need to blitz. They don't need to do anything. They can play man. They will beat you up front with their 3-4. They will beat you, period. And they play team defense. They can play, it is going to come down to Purdy. It is going to come down to the type of football, can Purdy manage that game? He is going to see a lot of probably, cover ones. They're going to load that box and try to stop, CMC in that run game and have Purdy beat him. And can he do it? But manage the game, make those throws that you got to make. And, man, I think the Niners are
I think we're safe. Okay. I don't think, as we said, I don't think we're in a bad place. I don't think it's.
I really don't. And the Niners are one of those few teams in the NFL, and I can only name like 2 or 3 that could lose their quarterback, and it's really not that. It's not devastating.
Yeah.
If we lost, if we lost Kyler, that would be devastating. If you lost Geno, that would be devastating. Yep. Sam, if you lost. Well, you did. That would be devastating. So, too soon? Was that too soon? Sorry. But you lost Jimmy GQ again. I'm gonna say the stat: 10-2. The Niners are 10-2 when Jimmy GQ throws 0 touchdowns. It's not about the quarterback. It's about that defense and that run game.
Yeah, and it showed against Miami. If any team can plug and play a guy in and still win because of the scheme and the defense and everything else and the coaching, we just took down a pretty good Miami team, and they only had 2 chunk plays, and that was it. They had nothing else.
A pretty good Miami team. You beat them like they stole something. Oh, yeah. And that was one of the best AFC teams the AFC has. So
yeah, I was surprised that turned out the way it did. Like I really was thinking it was going to be a solid game. I didn't think you guys were just going to beat the brakes off them. Like that was different.
Yeah, I think the trash talking and some of the words that had come out of Miami and some of the confidence that the Miami team came in with got a few of our defensive players on edge. Having Armstead back made a huge difference to our defense. He stuffed the middle. He freed up Bosa so much. He freed up the ends. It's one of those guys that we've missed so badly by not having him. And even when he's there, the things that he does when he's there that frees up everybody else. I think it was chalk and cheese our D line when Armstead was in.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that you have the defensive player of the year in Bosa, though.
I mean, it's no bad. It's not a bad thing to have, sitting there. He's going to go. I think if he gets a sack this week, he goes 15.5 on the season, which is only the 5th player in however many years to go back-to-back 15.5. I think he's on course for the 19.5 sacks a year record. I know these records are a bit weird because now they play 17 games over the previous ones, but
That's a
you know,
ton of sacks. That's a ton of
it's
sacks.
a lot
You
of
know how many?
sacks.
He's played Kyler Murray for 4 years. You know how many times he sacked Kyler Murray?
Isn't it 2 a game at least or something?
I think everybody
None?
sacks similar to a game, though.
He's
Zero.
not caught Kyler yet.
Oh, really?
Zero.
0 times?
Zero. Yep. As many times as I have. 0.
Whereas
Just had-
Sam's new
Just had
quarterback,
to throw
he's
that out there. What's up, Sam?
what's that, Sam? Your new quarterback, your new savior, who's ridden into town on a wing and a prayer, takes you to a win on Thursday Night Football. What
Yeah,
the-
I mean, it was great to get the win. Not going to lie. I think after 6 games of losing and just wishing the season would end, it's kind of it's officially meant that it's not impossible for us to get to the playoffs, which I think is wishing
We're
on
still
a dream.
not
obviously.
mathematically out of it. Oh, that's
No,
crazy.
so I mean that's something. I mean to be honest, I watched that game on Thursday night, and for 3 quarters it was terrible. We were absolutely dreadful for 3 quarters, and then I think that it was almost as if Baker or McVay or whoever it was that made the decision just went, right, Baker, don't think, just throw. And that's what happened, and that's how we sort of managed to sort of overcome the Raiders. I mean, I've seen obviously a lot of people getting quite I don't know, probably getting a bit over the top with Baker. I mean, it's been 1 decent quarter, 3 crap quarters. He's still Baker Mayfield. But I mean, the rumors obviously are that potentially Matt Stafford might miss 2023. He could retire. I mean, with the injury, he's got the spinal contusion. So, to have someone like Baker Mayfield in the team in comparison to the likes of John Wolford and Perkins, it's not a bad option to have. It's like if we can get a few of those sort of players back next year, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson can get on some sort of wavelength with Baker. If we can sort out the O-line in the draft, or bringing in a few different players, like it'll be very. I think it'll happen very much similar to how it is with the Niners now with Jimmy. If you can just if you can lean on the defense, pick up a few points if and when you can, using sort of players like Cooper, and just pray to God that he doesn't throw that many bad throws.
Doesn't have any Bakerisms. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
As long as you don't actually learn the playbook, I think you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I think the same thing happened with the Bucks Saints game on the Monday Night Football previously. When they just went to Tom and went, Tom, just go and do your stuff for the last 2 drives. That was it. They kind of took all the nuance and whatever else. And the same with Baker. You got to the end, you're like, just go do your stuff. Here's the ball. Go, 2-minute drill. Don't think. Don't worry about it. Just play what's in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, that's where Baker's at his best.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not thinking.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he's that guy that almost has to be off schedule to have success. When he's supposed to be that rhythm, sit back and throw the ball, like he's just not that guy. Even in the years that he was decent in the Brown system, his most successful throws were off schedule, moving around. They're not stand in the pocket and drive it, which that's where his OBJ compilation came from, right? Like he actually had some time. They had a good offensive line, and his throws just weren't ideal. But then as soon as he starts moving around, he's actually relatively accurate scrambling.
Yeah, he just needs to be. I think the situation we're in at the moment suits Baker in terms of the way he plays. The fact that he has to get out of the pocket, because there is no pocket.
Yes.
So he has to get out of that area, that zone. So I think to scheme him in a way that he has to roll out a lot and play those sorts of plays, it works for now. It's what happens going forward. If we were to sign him on, if Matt Stafford isn't available to play, what happens then? Do we continue to play to Baker's strengths? Which McVay's a very, very talented coach. He'll know how best to play Baker. But does he do that? Does he look at, if it is going to be a case of 1 year out for Stafford, does he stick with Baker and just think, right, we'll go another year and then hopefully we'll get Stafford back a year after that? Or do we keep Baker and maybe in the draft look at picking up another quarterback and maybe basing it on the fact that, yes, Stafford may be out for 2023, but he may then decide to retire if things don't go well. And then we're left with Baker Mayfield.
So
I really don't think that you're gonna. I really don't think that Baker's gonna be your quarterback in 2023. But I also think that this was a genius move by Sean McVay.
Yeah.
McVay can sell this to his fan base as, look, I'm gonna play football to the bitter end. I'm gonna keep trying, and clawing and fighting for every single W, no matter what. And that goes a long way with the fan base and the players in that locker room too, right? Sean McVay is showing, hey, listen, he can also show to the front office, look, this is not going to cost us very much dollars and cents. Because let me tell you something, the front office, that's all they care about is dollars and cents. This is not going to cost us very much. Carolina's on the hook for his payroll, so we only got to pay, just shillings
1.4 or
for
something.
him for
1.3
for 5 games. So, and then as far as Sean McVay's concerned, he can look at it like, I have 5 games to see if he's got anything left. Stafford probably won't be back next year. I'm going to need a quarterback for next year. So I've got a 5-game sample size that I can see, hey, does this guy have it? If he doesn't, I cut him. No harm, no foul. I can either draft somebody or get somebody in free agency. So this was a genius move for Sean McVay. But when he's throwing 58% completion percentage this year, 61% for his career, I don't know. When I think of a Sean McVay quarterback, I think of an accurate quarterback. Cooper Kupp, let's face it, Cooper Kupp is not 24. Cooper Kupp is what, 45? And listen, he's amazing. He's great. I think he gets the most separation of any wide receiver in the league. But he needs that ball pinpoint, right? So, he needs a quarterback that's going to help him out a little bit. And every receiver does. Be a little bit more accurate than 61% completion percentage.
Yeah.
So
here's
why. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this is where I think we need to get, I think at least some of the Rams fans need to get a bit more realistic, is that we've won 1 game after losing 6. And I think it's kind of, Baker's come in 48 hours and don't get me wrong, doing what he's done in that game is fantastic. I think even Shanahan made a comment that of any position for someone to come out and try and learn the playbook within 48 hours and to pull off a win in a brand new franchise is an absolutely phenomenal sort of accomplishment.
For sure.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, I don't think it really, it's great for 1 game. But what happens when
it's not sustainable, is it?
For the rest of the season, he plays a game where he's learned the playbook. Baker does what Baker does, and I think there is a lot of people that need to sort of be realistic that whether he's here long term or whether he's not Matthew Stafford. He is going to make mistakes, a lot more mistakes than what Matthew Stafford does.
Yeah.
Well, and
you also look at it from, sorry, Bo, go on. I was just going to say, you look at it, Jason was saying if they cut him at the end of the season, whatever else, they could hang on to him and get compensatory picks for him, right? If somebody else comes along and goes, he balls out for 5 games, but Stafford does come back and somebody comes along and goes, hey, we'll take Baker off you. And then the Rams are picking up compensatory, maybe a 3rd-round pick for $1.4 million. That's cheap as chips, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
it's funny because, like you were saying, the way he plays isn't sustainable, right? The way he's comfortable, he rolls out and, he essentially gets rid of half of the field on half of his plays anyway.
When he rolls out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's always rolling out and around and, if he does throw the other side, it's going to the house the other way. But here's the list of the free agent QBs this year. This is why I don't think you end up with Baker as your guy. So the free agents at the end of this season are Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy G, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno, Mike White, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Drew Lock, Bridgewater, Cooper Rush, Flacco, Dalton, Mason Rudolph, Keenum, and Minshew. I mean, That's an insane amount of hitting the market at the same time. And you can't honestly think that Baker is the best guy of that group.
No,
I mean, I know
not even close.
Right?
I know we probably the likelihood of it happening, but if we could get someone like Lamar Jackson and that pipe dream of someone like Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson or Tom Brady are the two, but for me, Lamar Jackson would be the one. But
honestly, if your team was healthy, just think of what Cooper Rush was able to do with the Cowboys. I mean, he was throwing an accurate ball. He wasn't turning it over. He wasn't doing anything special, but you don't necessarily need special in your offense. You just need a guy.
Even a Teddy Bridgewater. Oh, man. And that Rams offense, jeez.
No, that's what I mean. Like, you don't need special. You just need a guy that's a guy, right? Like, you need that dude that is going to complete the ball and not just ruin your life on a, Jimmy G style end of gameplay.
Cheers, Bo. Thanks for that.
Good job, Bo.
You're just slating everybody in one foul go there. That's nice.
I tell you what, every Niners fan, if there's any watching this, they're all going to be absolutely laying it on thick if he comes away with that Super Bowl win and doesn't mess up at all. If he comes back for it,
if he comes back for the championship game, does he play? Probably, you probably think you'd drop him in, right? Even if Brock
That's
gets
a great question, though.
in.
Wait a minute, that's a great question. If Purdy is rocking the mic from now, and if the Niners make the Super Bowl, and that means Purdy's got to be playing great. He's got to be making great decisions. Great. If the Niners make the Super Bowl, Purdy's making great decisions. Does Shanahan pull the trigger and start Jimmy GQ in the Super Bowl in Arizona?
He's been off for 7 weeks.
Man,
Is he?
It
would be a lovely position. It would be a lovely position to have to get to.
Yeah, right. Lovely decision to make. Yeah.
I think they do put Jimmy G back in, though, because he's been in that game.
And lost that game.
He did. And he had 2 bad throws, really.
But he lost that game.
Yeah, but those two
lost that game.
No. That Super Bowl, no. Our defense lost that game because we played lights out for 3.5 quarters, and then the defense went missing and let the Chiefs score 21 unanswered points in 7.5 minutes. That's on the defense to have not shut down. One shot from Jimmy.
Kyle Shanahan called some pass plays, and I was like, "What are you doing calling some pass plays? You're up 10 points, and then you're up 3 points, and you're still throwing the ball." And I'm like, "Why are you throwing the ball?" So.
I don't know. That one throw, he outran essentially a gunner at that point by a good, 5-6 yards.
I think it's one of those things where, it's going to be interesting to see where the Niners are if and when Jimmy comes back. Because if you are, in the NFC Championship, if you are in the Super Bowl, whichever game he's available for, personally, it's going to be a case of, well, Purdy's got you there. I know Jimmy's done the hard yards in the season to a certain degree.
Which would be this is his best season to date.
Yeah.
But when it's crunch time, the big players step up. And if Purdy can step up during the playoffs against some pretty good teams, let's be honest, it's this I think this NFC is going to have some good teams that are going to be, the likes of the Cowboys, the Eagles. I know that they've had their little slip-ups, but...
The almighty Saints.
Well...
they'll be in it. Somehow they'll be in it, yeah. NFC South, if the 49ers can get an NFC South team in the first wild card, first game...
Oh, my God.
You should roll them,
Cardinals could beat them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you roll them, and then that conversation really starts to take hold because Jimmy will be on the cusp of being fit then. Because 7 to 8 weeks from last Sunday, with everything, his boot's going to be in oxygen and everything's going to be, as much as possible to make that foot as good as it can be. He's going to be in contention for potentially wildcard weekend, but definitely divisional NFC championship. And then if we're in there and we have a decision to make, fan-bloody-tastic from my point of view. But as you say, it depends on how we get there. If we limp there and we get from this way out, we go, 2-4, but we somehow get in and whatever else, and we limp into the playoffs, then Jimmy's almost a shoe-in to come back in. But if Brock, as you say, balls out, wins some tough games, shows he can mix it with some of the teams,
Has that moxie.
has the moxie, kind of just takes the team and goes, "I'm it, guys. You're with me now. Let's go." What? I don't know.
For the record, I go Jimmy GQ no matter what, but I mean that would be a great topic for sports radio that week, right?
It would be a bold call from Shanahan.
Either way.
I would rather lose starting Jimmy G than lose starting Purdy, right?
Yeah,
you want Jimmy G's mind.
The fallout would be worse.
Decision making in there, yeah.
Yeah,
well, if you lost and you left Jimmy on the bench, it would be.
But if you won,
he might get fired.
If you won with Purdy, it's a stroke.
They put a statue of both in front of
So it's
now,
one of those really
Purdy and you lose, and Jimmy was available, you will get absolutely crucified.
Run out of San Fran.
Yeah.
Like it'd be brutal, but
it would be. I think it would be the biggest risk of Shanahan's career to
by far
to play Purdy over Jimmy if Purdy doesn't have perfect games.
Well,
if he has perfect games, he makes an argument.
It's really tough to do that, to even want to do that, right? Because the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they're hectic, but it's not the zoo that a championship game and the Super Bowl become, right? Because now you're not just requiring this kid to be great on the field, but you need them to be able to withstand all the noise that's going on around you for the week leading up to the championship game or the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, because there's so much non-football related noise around the teams that you're hoping that Mr. Irrelevant can be that guy, and having never been in the situation. Whereas if you have GG available, he's literally done all of that. And so, when you see rookies get into a Super Bowl, they generally don't have a great game.
All right.
Because of that 2-week zoo in the lead up where it's just mentally just drained because it's not football, it's just media and attention and
exactly.
It's
well, and then the game starts and the whole world is watching.
Yep.
You've also got to think as well, Purdy played it was only his first game last week, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it was at home.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's got home advantage. If you end up coming against the Cowboys, or you end up coming against the Eagles, who are likely to have a better record, you're having to take Purdy to potentially to an NFC Championship on away soil.
Yeah.
Now that's a completely different animal to being able to play at Levi Stadium. I think that could be a massive issue, and that might be what Shanahan decides is if you get to an NFC Championship and you're the home team, there is, to a certain degree, maybe slightly less pressure because he has home field advantage. Whereas if he's away, it's
going into AT&T Stadium or something.
Yeah. You go to
what if you're home?
There is going to be pressure at home, because you're essentially trying to, perform in front of all those fans. There is the pressure of a majority fan base, but you also have the backing of the fans if you play at home. If he plays away, if he goes somewhere like the AT&T Stadium, he could crack, and that could be a massive problem. And like you say, it'd be going back to that. Well, you decided to start Purdy over Jimmy G away, for example, the
away in the NFC Championship game. That's a bold call, isn't it? Yeah.
And
I suppose we'll get tested on Thursday night, right? As we look at it, he's going to have his first real away test Thursday night. It's going to be loud in Seattle. It's a big divisional game. The Hawks are going to be well up for that because of all of the ins and outs of it. So that's his first litmus test. I know he's got Brady coming in, but I don't envision the Bucs causing too many problems to this team. I don't think the Bucs are a very functional team. They've managed to eke wins out in the last minute and whatever else, but I think much like we did with Miami. I think that defense will put a beat down on the Buccaneers and not really make that a game. But I think the game in Seattle, short week turnaround, away, noisy, all of that. That's Brock's first proper real test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Seahawks aren't going to make it easy because that defense is starting to step up. Like that game against us. I mean, I arguably you could say it was probably one of their weaker performances, but I mean you've got the likes of Tariq Woolen, who is I think is slowly becoming
in for a shout with a
he's slowly becoming a defensive rookie player of the year, and I think it's one of those where if he's having to throw it, that you start throwing to the likes of Tariq Woolen, he could be under serious pressure.
Well, I think you have to stay away from him and go more towards like Kittle and CMC and get positive matchups with Debo. So
Exactly.
Mm.
Although
I think Shanahan's going to do as much as he can to help Brock.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't
case
think
of scheduling it.
failure, that's for sure.
I mean, to be fair, all the Niners have to do to the Seahawks is pound the running game and you'll win. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's all you need to do. They I mean, the fact that we scored to be fair, we've scored 100 yards for the last 3 weeks on the run, which is baffling.
Wherever you found that run game from, yeah.
We had no choice, I think, is more the problem. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at that sort of. If you look at McCaffrey, you give him the ball against a rush defense as bad as the Seahawks, or he'll pound you into submission. And although people will talk about the fact that if you win because of that, people will talk about Purdy, but it's what he's got around him that will be more important.
Yeah, the supporting cast that Purdy has is what needs to come to the fore here. And as we said, Bo, you managed to stop the run against the Giants, but then the Giants only had the run. Whereas if you sell out and try and stop the run against the Niners, then look out for those bubble screens. Look out for Big Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, the others. Yeah, it's with an offense that's a spread and the amount of targets and weaponry, it's difficult to see how you can focus on one side.
Like, I don't think you guys would be able to burn him over the top. I mean, because Woolen and Diggs are back there, they've shut down top flight receivers. Where the Hawks get burned constantly is, obviously the running game, but it's those tight end seam routes, little crossing routes across the middle, because they're so bad against the run. They're committing some of those linebackers that should be back in those zones up to the line to help with, the fact that we run a 3-4 and don't actually have personnel to do it. So we end up with linebackers on the line, which is, they're outmatched already, but then you end up with zone schemes that now don't have the players where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's, we've been burned on those seam routes, crossing routes, and running all season. And it's frustrating that I talk about that same thing every week, because you would hope from the coaching staff, I can't be the only one.
You can't be the only one who's seeing it, right?
I think the good thing about that defense, the Seahawks defense, is it's still only young. I mean, bar the nose tackle, we'll forget about the nose tackle being like 90. The rest of them are, between rookies to up to the age of 25. I mean, if this defense if you can manage to keep them all together and start, fixing, maybe adding a few to that sort of defensive line, bringing in a few, bringing in a new nose tackle, and bringing in a few players around that, I think you've got a solid base for a very, very good defense that could, challenge the likes of the Niners and the Cowboys, who I think are possibly two of the best defenses in the league.
For sure. Well, and this is where the draft comes in, right? This coming draft is really going to become interesting. So depending on what happens at the quarterback position, if the Broncos continue to play like the Broncos, that's a top 3 pick. So all of a sudden, if you're deciding you're not going to go with a quarterback, especially with the amount of free agents that are hitting the market, provided, Geno doesn't stay, whatever. But all of a sudden you can trade back that first pick, because there are I think there's 3 or 4 solid defensive ends that are going to be in the first round of this draft. And then there's also like, I think it's 2 interior linemen that are going to be defensive linemen that are going to be in this draft, which, I mean, if you were to be the Hawks and you trade back 4 or 5 spots, it's still not going to affect the fact that you're probably still going to pick one of those top 2, top 3 defensive ends. You probably end up with another second round pick. Plus you have your late first round pick from, their own pick. Yeah. You can actually really kind of start fixing that defensive line and giving some depth to that linebacking core just on this next draft. And of course, since there's 6 rookies on the team giving real contributions.
Already scored this year's draft, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you can have half the success of this next draft that we had with this one, that defense could really pop because that secondary has been sharp. And imagine if there was some true pass rush and able to shut the running game down. That's going to make those guys not have to cover for fucking 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's going to, I think this year is going to be a very interesting draft. I think for all of our teams, I think this year, I mean, obviously maybe not so much the Niners because it'll depend on what they plan to do going forward. I think there's still a few maybe possible.
I don't think we draft until the 3rd day anyway. So.
Yeah. Whereas I think, Cardinals, Rams and, the Seahawks are going to have interesting drafts, whether it's on, I mean, for us, it's never going to be the first day because we don't know what our first day pick is. But, looking at second day for us, but I think, there's a lot that's going to need to be done for all teams, I think.
Mm.
But there's also a lot of arguably top free agents going around potentially next year as well. I mean,
there's a lot of decisions to be made on the budgeting side for many of these.
Look at some of them
from a Niners perspective, we've got to pay Boza a lot of money.
Oh, is this
running? Yeah, the running. Yeah, it's coming up this season. I think he's in his 5th. So it's time to pay him the money before he starts even thinking about free agency. You don't want to be even getting to any sort of situation where he starts to test the market. I think he's going to kind of, how much do you want, Nick? Yeah, okay, thanks. Please just sign on the dotted line. It's got to be that. You can't do anything. But you're right, Sam, that the amount of running backs that are hitting free agency, I know Josh Jacobs is probably high on
Josh
number 1
Jacobs.
list.
I mean, Saquon Barkley's technically going to be a free agent. There's going to be some Rashad Penny. I know he's not exactly that. He's still. I think he's a good running back. He just spends a lot of time on the table.
Well, that's the thing.
There's going to be a lot of really good running backs out there. There's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks out there.
Yep.
And you're probably looking at quite a few positions quite a few teams that are going to need to fill those positions. So you could see
interesting come the end of. Where is the draft? Is it back in Vegas this year again, or are they moving it around?
I'm not sure
where it is this year.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the Seahawks are in a brilliant position draft-wise, probably to, if they make the Geno decision, if he sticks around for another year or 2, and then you go, right, okay, we've got a pick, the 3rd pick, who wants it? Colts are looking for a QB. There's a number of QB teams and who will want to go and get that new guy out, with CJ Stroud or Hooker or Williams or whoever it is they've got their eye on. You guys can pick and choose and sell that pick to needy teams, and as you say, pick again, still pick in the 9, 10, 11, get the guy you wanted, but have 2 or 3 extra second rounders in your back pocket as well. So it's kind of annoying because we thought your rebuild would take longer.
I mean, the odds of hitting 6 and having them all major contributors is so low. I mean, there's an immense amount of luck to that. I mean, obviously there's a lot of tape and they picked the guys that they wanted, but having all of them hit at the NFL level is always a question, right?
In year 1 as well.
World, but they could be Ryan Leaf and lose their mind as soon as they get to the league, and you just never really know. So to have all of them really just plug in and be home runs has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I think Ken. I mean, again, another one who's potentially looking at offensive rookie player there was Kenneth Walker, and I don't think anyone was even expecting him to have a significant role this season at all. I mean, I think they was expecting him to have some form of involvement, but Certainly
He was
weren't
back
expecting
up
him
to
to
penny,
be
wasn't he?
RB1.
I think when they drafted him out of Michigan State, they kind of expected that. I mean, in fantasy football, I drafted him in my 12-team league. I mean, a buddy of mine drafted Penny, and I'm like, I called him after the draft. I'm like, what's that like when drafting the backup running back in Seattle? Because I had
Yeah.
faith in Kenneth Walker. I watched the Michigan State games, and but yeah, fantasy is a crapshoot, and you never know how guys are going to translate into the NFL. But Kenneth Walker looked great.
Mhm.
And is
No,
he
I
going to
mean-
play today or not, Bo?
Yeah, is he fit?
So it sounds like he's available. I don't think he's really going to play though.
Cap his
You know,
snaps.
It's a high ankle strain, right? So they shouldn't put him out there, especially against this particular team, right? Because I mean, the Panthers aren't great, and they get Dallas back. So Dallas will put his head down and smash ahead for yards. I mean, he's not a bad back.
So
Just wrap him up in Cornwall for Thursday.
Is it going to be then essentially Dallas and Homer are going to be the two? Because I know I did read somewhere Homer was definitely going to be fit for week 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homer's
I mean,
back.
in one of my leagues, I've picked DJ and Homer off the waiver wire, so I'm hoping one of them can play because my second RB is absolutely dreadful at the moment. I'm scampering around for a second RB at the moment.
It's
Yeah,
Rashad Penny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Penny,
It's Devontae Foreman.
his career may be over. I mean, at this point, he hasn't played a full season since he got in the league, right? His best was his rookie year. He played 14 games. And then over the last 3 seasons combined, he's had 18 starts total. I mean, as great as his running ability is, he just can't stay healthy. So I think, the Hawks are definitely
that position. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't be available, I don't care how good you are.
The best
There's plenty of guys.
Niners know that well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. There's enough guys that you can plug in, at that position. Yes, if you can find a superstar, you're lucky and you're great. But there are enough functional guys who will smash it up the middle and get you those 3 yards, as you've just listed. And on the free agency, undrafted free agents, running back is not, unfortunately, fortunately for teams, it's not the be all and end all as it used to be. You don't hang your team on a running back anymore, do you? It's by committee or it's by spreading the ball around to.
Talking of running
you
backs,
just need to have them in the pitch on padded up though. So
talking of running backs really, really quickly, Cam Akers has suddenly become the wide. I mean, I know situationally it's probably why, but he's RB1
from the doghouse to the penthouse.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 or 3 weeks,
something like that.
And you just think, I think we even talked on here that Cam Akers was done in the. I think I even said, that's it, he's done. He'll never play for the Rams again.
It looked like they were moving off him.
For sure.
Trying to ship him. I mean, they tried to ship him, didn't they?
Well, I bet that they didn't have any suitors, or I bet they didn't get the offer they wanted. So they were like, okay, we'll stick with him. He's still a very good runner. And now it's him, and with a little bit of Kyren Williams sprinkled in, right?
Yeah.
Who knows where it could go? Next year could be fun and games.
And you started the year with Henderson. He goes to Jacksonville now, who just released him. So, man, try to figure this out.
The revolving doors of running backs. Gentlemen, we'll get to the top of the hour. It's been a blast catching up with you guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Jason, enjoy sitting with your feet up, making sure watching all of us struggle through this one. And good luck on Monday with your daughter, and I hope she doesn't break your wallet when she hits that gift shop. Take it easy, gents. We'll organise it better for next weekend.
Yes,
Sounds
sir.
good. Real pleasure.
Absolutely.
Take it easy,
guys.
Cheers.
Loving you guys. Take it easy. Bye now.